Good morning, everybody. You're loved and appreciated. You're celebrated and valued. Welcome this morning to the Seer Call. This particular call is on values, and we're going to continue building our brand, building really who we are. And I'm excited about today's our time today. We're going to spend most of this time looking at case studies around the brand, around values. And hopefully you all had an opportunity to work on your value statements, or at least our assignment from our last week's class was to at least identify 3 to 5 values. And that's a starting point. And then the next part of that would be actually creating value statements or a short value statement around the value that you actually chose. So let's hop right into this. I'm going to share my screen. All right, so you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. All right. So what we're going to do, what we've done thus far, we've dealt with our brand heart. What is the brand heart of your business? And even as we have progressed through this and even listening to you all share about your brand heart, why do you exist, the purpose, the vision, and then the mission, and what we'll work on today is the values. So when building a brand, it's not enough to create a great product or service and call it a day. If you want your brand to have any sort of longevity, you need to build strong relationships with people. And that requires something more: transparency. People want to see your brand as a whole entity. They want to know not only what you do, but what your brand values and believes in. So when we think about the brand value, we think about this particular process as it relates to your vision. It relates to who you are. I want you to walk away from this slide, this one statement. People want to know about what your brand values and what do you believe in. It's interesting. I had a call recently with someone who called to ask me to help them with they were in a political election, and they wanted me to help them to raise funds, like using some kind of crowdsourcing around helping women in politics, women in as it relates to what they stand for. So the very first question I asked, well, what are your values? What do you stand for? What are you asking me to support? Right? Are you standing for Republican or Democratic? And actually, this was a person out of the country. It was not in America, but they wanted the support of Americans to help to support women in leadership. And so, because we have values, we have certain values and ideas, it's also important that we understand what the value of that uh, organization is, and if we can align with it. So it's important to be transparent around your mission and vision. So our purpose today is really to align purpose. Why do you exist? Vision, what future do you want to help create? And then mission, how do you create that future? And then values, who are you? That's what the majority of this is going to be about today. Who are you and how do you work? So I'm going to spend some time today actually building, showing different what I call different case studies around, and we're just going to take time to get to know a few brands and how they position themselves and how they position themselves in the space, in the marketplace. One of the areas that I want us to take a look at is when we think about how we're going to communicate about these brands, about our personal brand, how we've used our websites in the past. We can really do a much better job in today's market using that to tell our stories rather than it being just a static page. So what you'll see is how they have been able to how they have been able to use their brand and use that about page and make it much more engaging with the individual. So whether it's a simple blurb on your homepage or a multimedia journey through an about page, and that's really standing out, that about page, because most times we just put our picture, we put something about the company, we put some stale bios, different things like that, which I think we can do a lot better. We've rounded up some, I've got some favorite examples of brands that showcase their brand values with clarity and creativity. I provided you a branding toolkit. So even if you have that toolkit, if you've opened, if you've opened it or printed it out for yourself, you can follow along. You won't be able to follow along specifically around this, but you will be able to follow along as it relates to your values and how these come together. So welcome, Monica D.
Hi.
So going to just continue to share a bit about this. We're looking at your values. We're looking at case studies today. So go ahead and I'm going to mute you and then I'll open it up for discussion. So in this case, what you see here is if you're looking at ways to share your beliefs and cultivate stronger connections with people, these brands can inspire us. So again, I want to go back. Can I go back to? All right, so it didn't let me go back. So we're going to study some brands, and the first one that we're going to study is a company called Everlane. Everlane, their value statement, what you see is on the screen, if you can see it well. I put it at the bottom. We believe we can all make a difference. Our way, exceptional quality, ethical factories, radical transparency. Okay, so when you look at that value statement, all of those words are actually their value statement. So this is a clothing company aimed to disrupt the fast fashion industry through radical transparency. Okay, so what's the value for them? When you think about what is one of their major values, well, this statement you're looking at is actually their value statement. It's 16 powerful words that they put together to distill or to share their core beliefs. So this is one way it can be done. We believe we can all make a difference. Our way, exceptional quality, ethical factories, radical transparency. So what do you think about this particular company when we're talking about it as it relates to how they have approached their value system and be able to share it with the public? Now, remember that the idea is that your branding heart are those four things: your why, your purpose, your mission, your vision, and now your values are all coming into a part what we call the heart of the brand. And the heart of the brand has to be able to have to be able to what? Connect with people transparently. Now, they've chosen transparency as a part of their value system because in the space where they work in the clothing industry, how transparent do you think Nordstrom's is? How transparent do you think any of these other, whether it's Marshalls, we're probably guessing, right? How they are doing business. You ever wonder where are these clothes going? We're just guessing the process. We notice that even in their systems, if we walk into Nordstrom's, everything starts at its retail price. Then, as you see, within probably a 30 to 60 or 90-day window, the same product that was, $2,000 is now 50% off 90 days later. Why, people? Why? You know what I'm saying? So when we think about this process, is there transparency in that, or have we just been doing business this way for such a long time that we expect a sale, we're going to buy when there's a sale, and then we're really expecting a 75% sell if we're going to buy from major luxury brands. People who are the first ones out, they have a different persona, right? That person that goes to Nordstrom's and they want that first release of this spring collection. They know Nordstrom's is only going to have a limited number, so they're not going to see that outfit everywhere. They value that, right? They value wearing that brand. They value being the first one to step out in social media on a red carpet or wherever it is. They value, but for the general population, that's probably 85% of their shoppers. What are we waiting on? So again, it's a matter of what is the value. So Everlane may not be a company that you're familiar with, but you're becoming familiar with it today. All right. And so the next one is they show how they apply their values in this particular illustration. Next, they offer a deeper dive into each value, showing how they apply their beliefs to their manufacturing process. So here what you see is our factories. And again, this is just going through their website to see how are these values actually coming to the surface. And so what we see here is our ethical approach. We spend months finding the best factories around the world, the same ones that produce your favorite designer labels. We visit them often and build strong personal relationships with the owners. Each factory is given a compliance audit to evaluate factors like fair wages, reasonable hours, and environment. Our goal, a score of 90 or above to every factory. So now what did you just hear about their values? What you hear is basically they're going through this process and they're showing us how they apply their values. And what are their values? Their values are exceptional quality, ethical factories, radical transparency. Do you see how they just reinforce that in this ethical approach? You see the words keep coming back to that customer, right? So as you are developing your purpose, your mission, your vision statements, then the values are going to show up throughout this process. It's not just a statement that's hidden because it sounds good. You keep bringing it back before the customer. So they also put a literal face to the product in their manufacturing practices, right? So the same brands, now we know that these brands are the jobs, people who are making these clothes don't live in America. So look at this picture. They're telling you we are sourcing these in other countries. We want to make sure because they have a what? They have a reputation of unethical manufacturing in their factories, whether it's child labor, whether it's abuse of women, whatever the case may be. So again, this is how it shows up. And then this final one is the way they show their transparency. Best of all, they end the page with an infographic. This is their about page with an infographic that breaks down a breakdown of their pricing model, which shows how the company turns a profit while keeping prices reasonable. It's transparency from the start to finish, proving that Everlane walks the walk in every aspect of their business. And so here, that may be maybe a little small for you. Let's see. If I can just raise it up, I meant to. So you see here in their transparency, materials, labor, most of their labor is going there, transport, duties, hardware. True cost is $54. Our price, $168, traditional price, $270. Transparency. What do we also see here is they mark their price up 200%, which is probably not the average because the average is another, in their case, it is another $170, $100 more. So 400% is that markup for retail. Now, how does that make you feel? Think about that. 400%. Incredible, right? So again, that's what we call transparency. So I'm gonna come back to you. You can go ahead and open up your audio so that we can talk just a moment around this, around what you're taking from just seeing this case study. Okay, you guys were having a challenge seeing were you able to see the actual presentation?
No, we saw the Everlane transparency part, but not the other
Not the
part.
other part I was talking about? Oh, okay.
Right.
Okay, I'm not sure what was showing, my face or something?
It was showing brand heart, so it still had it on
Oh,
the
stuck.
brand heart.
Yeah,
Hmm.
stuck on that slide. Okay. Sorry about that. I didn't see I just saw that there were a couple of notifications there. And welcome, Monica D and Monica London. So, what is your perspective about when we think about what we're working on as it relates to your business, and when you're looking at another case study? And that was just the about page for Everlane, guys, of them really talking to that client and telling them how they go through their process and how you see the values actually start to bubble up in that experience. So what's your takeaway?
I guess my takeaway is that, is that I would prefer to put my money into a company that we share the same values.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, I are, integrity and all of, transparency is something that I try to live by in my own life.
Mm-hmm.
And so if a company can offer that to a customer, then, that is a great quality. That is a good quality to have.
Excellent. And actually, you're right on top of it, because this particular generation of millennials, especially Gen Zs, are very committed to uh, brands that are ethical or that share their value systems, and multiple. We see it everywhere. That's why we see cancellation, where you get canceled out, your brand get canceled out, and all of those kinds of things, because people are deciding, I can make a choice. And if it doesn't align with me, I'm not choosing that. I'll find someone that does, or not do it at all. How about you, Candace?
I think for me, the takeaway so far is how everything lines up. With the purpose, the vision, their mission, and their values. Everything coincides with one another. You truly understand, and they just drive home everything that they're saying, because you don't have to wonder, because they keep it the same. Sometimes I know for mine, just looking at that, I see that, your vision and your mission and your values, sometimes they could be all over the place, because you're over here and you're not really thinking that everything should line up and be one. That way, no one would ever have to question what you're doing, because it's shown right there.
Okay, excellent. And Monica? Monica D.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I was having such an issue. I didn't want to be glitchy, so that's why I turned my camera off.
Okay, no.
I think for me, I just kind of see it as a combination of, or a summary, so to speak, of the vision, mission, and purpose.
Yes.
But maybe kind of a little reworded, or maybe something extra added in it to really drive home the point, just like core values in a relationship, or
yes,
which this is a relationship with your customer, so
exactly.
it would be like into the same thing. Okay.
Yeah.
For this company though, what I liked was the transparency piece, because you don't see that so much with that. Maybe you see more transparency, I think, in areas where maybe it's coaching or it's something where maybe it's more of a one-on-one type thing
Mhm.
than that. So um, I like that piece about them.
Okay, so going back, thank you for that. But going back to the value statement, when you're saying, I'm kind of seeing them all come together, and they should be.
Hmm.
I want to just highlight for you when we think about values. Values are kind of the action words. These are the ways that we are going to execute and how we show up in the world. So when they say radical transparency, we're going to do things nobody's ever done, right? When they talk about ethical factories, they're defining that no, if you're not ethical, we're not going to work with you. So the value statements are really important because we talked about this previously, and I gave the example of values of where I had a conversation with a gentleman around the systems. And by the way, ladies, you remember the systems that we're talking about. We're talking about your finances, your operations, to your sales, to leadership, those pillars. Well, guess who talked to the author of this book, of this manual? I spent an hour with him, which was absolutely wonderful. And I may consider actually just mentoring with him in one of his programs to further define and refine these particular pillars, right? And so I don't think I actually uploaded this for you, but I'm gonna upload. I did get a couple of these examples. But what was so amazing is that it was an awesome call that we had together, and he's an amazing person. If you haven't looked at his website, Systems of Business. So again, that was serendipitous as well, to be able to set aside some time and have a conversation with him and really understand the heart of his mission in what he is endeavoring to do. And his business is really interesting because he actually guarantees that your business is going to grow in a specific space after he evaluates where you are and how he and his team can actually help you get there. So that was very impressive. So let's go. Let's look at another company as well. And when I think about, I was telling you about his values, and the reason I was sharing that with you is because he made a statement. He says, when you align your values with the work that you do, um, when it's time to make hard decisions, they are really easy. Okay, because he's like, I didn't even have to get emotional about it. He had a person on the team that wasn't aligning with the mission and vision and the values of the company. And he just decided, you know what, my values help make that decision so much easier. And then the best part about it was the fact that they could go back to the values. The person that was being released from the company understood that this is our values. I'm not really in alignment with it, and I'm okay with that. And he says, we're still friends, but he just doesn't need to be in that position. So do you see how important your values can be around the building of your company? It's going to make the hard work easier. It makes the hard work for Everlane easy to determine whether they're going to do business with this factory or not. If that factory does not achieve a what, 90% score or higher, can't do business with you. You know why? Because we have ethical factories. We have radical transparency. And if we choose a factory that's operating at 50%, what have we done? We have misaligned. We have failed to achieve our values. We have no integrity with ourselves. So I put this link in the chat for you to be able to refer to that later, so that you can continue to look at some of these value examples. So I'm going to share the screen. I just wanted to put them in my PowerPoint just to see. So this next one, which I want to actually, this particular How many of you have heard of swell? When you think about it, shake your head up or down. Anybody heard of it? Okay, you'll probably change your mind when you figure out what it is. So swell waste no time in telling people who they are and what they stand for. And Sarah is a friend of mine, right? And when Sarah, she had been doing doing this company, and she was also a member of the Women Presidents Organization. And so my friend Phyllis is a good friend of hers, and so I was sending Phyllis my pictures of me with my swell bottle that I took everywhere around the world. So I'd take it and I'd take a picture of myself. One of them was I took my swell bottle and I put it in my bed right next to me on my pillow with the cover pulled up with just the swell showing and at the top of it, it said, "I'm gonna have a swell night. These hot flashes are killing me." Right? And the reason for that is that, and then I ended up, when I sent it to her, the president, or Sarah, actually saw it and she's like, "Oh my God, you have got to be kidding me." And of course, everywhere I went, I took my swell bottle. I was at the top of a mountain. I took pictures there, and I started all my friends using the swell bottle. I'm telling you, I bet you I gave away swell bottles, and they're fairly expensive, but to all my friends, I bought them by the cases, right? Because I fell in love not only with the bottle, but I fell in love with the passion. So you see here for Sarah, dear Swell friend, in 2010, I launched Swell with a mission to rid the world of plastic water bottles. Look how simple that mission is. I want you to think about your mission. Open up your audio, and I want you to just give me your mission statement, one after the next. You ought to have it in front of you. I want you to see how this is showing up in the world. Candace, what's your mission statement?
To eradicate poverty in underserved communities.
All right, so you see how simple this is. When we start to speak this language, we start to feel this language, we start to get people to feel what we feel, right? And in this case, what about you, Monica D?
Setting a standard for humanity to imagine and experience a post-racial world.
So it's got to get people to start to what? Feel what you feel, and let them know that you feel them, right? You feel them. You're having this experience, because guess what? All of us see plastic bottles everywhere. And this morning, I was thinking about, why do we buy this plastic water? Why do we buy water in plastic bags? And we get 36 of them, or we get 48 of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we pay $3 or $4 for those bottles. What do we really think is inside the bottle if we're paying $3 for the water bottles? Why do you think that's better for you than you actually taking control of your own consumption and creation by buying a filter that you know they're taking the same water? How do you think they're making this water? They're running it through a filter. They're running it through some kind of osmosis. They're getting it from the regular water supply, just like we are, and they're putting it in bottles that are completely terrible for the climate. So she says, "Hey, I just want to launch the Swell mission to rid the world of plastic water bottles. I believe that if we made a crave-worthy bottle," listen to what she's saying, a what? Crave-worthy bottle. What did I just tell y'all about my Swell bottles?
You put it in the bed with you.
You take it everywhere with you.
So I can have a what? Swell.
Well,
Well,
Okay, you gotta understand, when I
cool.
was going through menopause, it was so freaking bad, literally, that I would have to change clothes
Oh,
in the daytime.
oh, you had it bad. Wow.
So her bottles kept the water cold for 24 hours, right? And all I had to do is keep refilling it. And so, crave-worthy bottle that combined fashion with function. Now, y'all know I like special things, right? I like technology. So if it got a little technology in it, I'm in love. And so people would stop buying disposable bottles and we could reduce single-use plastic consumption worldwide. So you see, the mission is to rid the world of plastic water bottles. Then how are we going to do that? We're going to create these crave-worthy bottles and combine passion and function together. And then guess what? People are going to stop buying these disposable bottles. And guess what? We will also accomplish our mission, and that is to reduce single-use plastic consumption worldwide. It was an audacious goal, but I believe the world needed swell. And now, 7 years later, and this is this is now 10 years later, we are the fastest growing woman-owned company in the country. I'm delighted every time I see a swell in a purse, a backpack, or a stroller. Now, look at that. I don't want to look at this statement, guys. Who do you think is her target audience? Come on.
Moms, women.
People. And this is just a conversation with what? With people. It's a conversation. So how we move to the next level of doing your website and not just being static. We need to be more creative. We need to tell our story. We need to have a energy that compels people, that touches people, that get people to feel what we feel. That's pretty awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like it's drawing you in because I want to see the bottle now.
Of course.
I'm like,
So
show it to me.
here, and you're gonna see that. So it says, our fan base. Now listen again. She made customers what? Raving fans. I
Mhm.
became a raving fan. I became a person tweeting and she would retweet. You know what I'm saying? Her marketing people would retweet. Why? Because I wasn't just a customer. I was what? A raving fan. And so she says, I am delighted that they're in purses and backpacks and strollers. Our fan base has been built by word of mouth. One enthusiastic user to another. Here we go. I gave away tons of these in my events where I had my Equip Lounge. If you ever attended an event in the Equip Lounge for 2 or 3 days, you got a swell bottle. Now these bottles are not inexpensive. They are expensive. It's a $50 bottle, right? It's a $75 bottle. I've got some bottles, obviously, right here in my home. So our fan base has been built by word of mouth. We are making big differences by the amount of plastic we're keeping out of landfills and waterways. I'm also incredibly proud to partner with UNICEF, RED, and many other important charities. How many of you know what UNICEF RED is?
Yeah, that's nice.
I'll tell you, you know what it is. How many of you have a RED cell phone? Okay, that's a partnership with UNICEF RED. That's not just a red phone, it's a partnership. Okay, so when we think about that, she's trying to say what? She's making her brand human and saying that we care. Not only do we care about the planet, but we care about people. We care about other charities. We care about helping other people in the world. So not only do our bottles work great, they also have accomplished great work. Thank you for supporting our mission and being a part of the journey. Together, look at this connection. You know what I mean? Keep including you in that moment. Keep including people in that moment. Keep including the people that you're going to serve in that moment. Keep letting businesses know, Monica London, about your ability. When you put these systems in order, we are going to create more powerful communities. We are going to create jobs for the people. We are going to bring economic value to our communities when we're able to accomplish this mission. I just love this stuff. It's like so good. So through a letter from the founder, an informative video, and a visual guide to their products. Now that's the 3 things: a letter, and you should be just highlighting this. How can you communicate and make the connection with people. These examples, we're just pulling out the work that they've done, right? We pull out the work or the ways in which they've made their brands come alive. In this case, it's a letter from the founder. You're a founder now. You're a vision caster. You're going to have other people working and serving your communities and serving in your business. Then the next thing is an informative video and a visual guide to their product. So those are 3 ways that we can build something, right? So just grab that. They tell you everything from why Swell was created to rid the world of the plastic water bottles to their philosophy of product design, beautiful, charitable, sustainable. Craft something that's fashionable and functionable. All right, how many of y'all want a Swell bottle now?
Yes, I'm so excited. I was looking on the website because I just had to see what it looked like.
I'm like, listen, I have like bottles that I've spent about $25 on.
Yes. Yes.
It does not keep the water cold longer than 12 hours. It is supposed to be 24. So I'm like, I'm ready.
Well, it definitely does the work. So in this case, there is no sound to this, so you should be able to see. Can you see it? This is the Swell bottle, triple walled. Now look at what they're doing. Cold for 24 hours. Look at you responding to all that pretty.
Yes.
Then they have
love
hot
it.
for 12 hours. And they have all different types of bottles to, and they do have sizes. They have 3 sizes. This was my favorite.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
And they're BPA free because they're still inside. Look at this.
Ooh.
Oh, look at that one.
And look at underneath that, you see the environment letting you know that beautiful, sustainable, charitable. What? We want beautiful, we want sustainable, and we want to give to other people as well.
I love it.
Look at y'all. Y'all like, can we see it again? Let me replay it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So now just pay close attention to what might highlight as a reinforcement of their values and their vision.
Eco-friendly.
Mm.
You may have missed these the first time. All of these. They started with just the bottles. Now they have other bottles as well.
Mhm.
So when you think about it, what did you see that highlighted for you?
The environment
Yeah, not
Mhm.
eco-friendly.
thing that I saw.
And what else?
Well, I mean, even the product looked like, that it was product from the environment.
Mm.
So you had the wood with the
Mhm.
trees, you had, I'm sorry, y'all, hold on.
All right. Let mama live. Let mama live. Everybody know we got people in our environments. It's all right.
Okay, sorry about that, y'all.
That's all right. Mama.
So the container itself will remind you or let people know that you're environmentally conscious, and then they're so I don't know, sleek in design. Be like, where did you get that from?
Exactly. That was the question that people kept asking me. Where did you get that bottle from? So just give me 1 second, and I'm gonna grab a bottle so you can see it physically. Okay.
OMG, I'm on the website and they have so many pretty ones.
Listen, that wooden one, when I saw it, I said, that's an executive bottle.
Yes. Right.
What is it, swell.com?
Yes, swell.com. And they have like the snack containers. They have a lot.
Oh,
I'm a customer already.
Right.
look.
Look, I'm
I
like counting up.
love
I'm
stuff
counting
like
up
that.
the cost down.
My son will say, "You so bourgeois, only you would ever, you would pay that." Oh wait, does that little small one looks like it's for soup or something hot?
Or a snack. Because you know it keeps it hot or cold. So I guess you could put like your fruit in there if you wanted to.
Yeah, exactly. For the little bowls. Well, I couldn't even find a swell bottle.
Well, we on the website.
Yeah. So that's pretty amazing. When you think about, let me just pop over there. When you think about these 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 case studies, right? And if you start to really pay attention, can you see that?
Yes.
Yeah. So now we've got
Oh
snacks,
wow.
That
Yeah.
real
where
is
you
the
can take your
beast.
food. And they only started with this one bottle, which was in 3 different sizes. So now they move from drinking to eating and accessories. Eat Snack by Swell. Now,
Wow.
you have to understand, like in other countries, these are huge, these kinds of products, because they don't always have access. Look at this.
Oh, wow.
That is amazing.
They don't always have access to refrigeration and different things like that.
It
So
looks like a tree, even though it's a snack.
Yeah.
It looks like a tree.
It'll
Like
keep
the-
it cold.
Right. It's
Correct.
like they made like a tree from the roots on up.
so I think when we're looking at these kinds of things,
Mm.
and you're looking at your experience with your brand, it's important that you consider how does it show up in the process of what you're doing. And even if you have a business, a consulting business, how does that show up, in that space? So this was my favorite. The teak wood was my favorite. Now the 25 ounce, which you can't really see because they don't really advertise it, but that holds a bottle of wine. It'll keep it nice and chill if
Wow.
you wanted to go on a picnic. I'm just saying,
A survival kit. Yes.
you need some what you call it, you need some stuff for your communion, you see. And so here are all these different
Your community.
different bottles that of course you can go back. And then they went one step further. This was not available initially, but now you can actually personalize your bottles.
Wow.
It's done.
Right? They didn't have this available initially, because I actually, when people would come to the Equip Lounge, I actually wrote on the bottles a little message to them around one word or something with some white chalk on the bottles. I got some solid color bottles in pink and bright colors or whatever, and some in wood, and use white chalk to do it. But now you can actually order it with a, with what you want, for initials or a word. All right.
Oh, this is so cool. That's
So
my
now-
one of my birthday gifts for me to me.
That's right. Get your Swell bottle. Okay, so ladies, we have a few minutes. So I want to take I sent you that I want you to look at some of the other brands, right? And I know it's a little different when you're doing it yourself versus us doing it together to really highlight. But when you look at these 10 brands, right, what I want you to consider, again, I'm going to share this. I want you to consider, we're going to, let me see if I can locate it if I didn't pop out of there. It may have popped up. Off my page. Okay, so I want you to go back to this example that I sent you. And I want you to go through each one of these brands, right? And I want you really to look at how they are, and make sure, look in the chat, in the chat area, and I will make sure to add this. I apologize, I missed this week. I didn't realize that I did putting our replay up, but I'll put them both up on today. But I want you to go through this, and I want you to begin to look at how they are, like, look for the values, look for how they're being communicated. It doesn't matter what the product is. And some of us, we have service businesses, but again, you're going to bring up the words that make people feel, make them compelled, make them connect to this process. Why are you, you're passionate about eradicating poverty, right? And so we've got to find the right words in those value statements, and then the action verbs to actually demonstrate those words in our statements. Okay, and so your purpose is to go through, I want you to just write out how they are communicating these brand values and mission, and then pop on their websites and just take a look around, but don't rush. If you don't get through all 10, find one or two that really speak to you and start to look at that, how they've been able to pull that out. How many of you familiar with Sonos? Sonos is a music, it connects your live streaming audio. I've been a Sonos fan for 13 or 14 years. I'm always an early adopter. When they first came out in 2000, maybe on the market in 2004 or 2005, I actually, when I built my home in 2006, I put Sonos throughout the house. And again, what's been most impressive, in my opinion, about Sonos is that those same products that I purchased in 2007, I can still use today. I have one, this is 14 years later, and they didn't, one piece they actually, they upgraded, you couldn't use it anymore. But their basic hub, they have maintained the ability over 14 years to this same piece to upgrade what I have, to have me not invest another $200 or $300 in these hubs to be able to play their products. One of the ways they've done it is that they put in the speakers now a direct ability to stream via Wi-Fi without having to be hardwired. Most of them had to be hardwired to something, and then they also had some Wi-Fi. So that's what Sonos is. And of course, we're familiar with Virgin Media, right? Virgin Media is Rick Bronson. I mean, not Rick, what's his name? Richard Branson. Richard Branson. Okay, WeWork, many of you are familiar with WeWork, right? This is a place where you can office with other people.
Right.
They took a huge hit in this economy, but they'll come back. They were in 75 countries. I actually worked in WeWork. I actually worked in it a couple of different times in different locations, where I had an office in Fort Worth and an office in Dallas. And I actually got one where they were actually building out a facility in a space. That was an interesting experience, to walk in and kind of define where your space might be, your little office that was no more than 150 square feet. Standing in it, I have pictures of me standing on the concrete, that nothing developed around it, and there's just this little box of what the size of that space was going to be. So again, here are some of their values. You're going to be able to see these things, like with you, Monica, entrepreneurial. That's a value. You want to work with entrepreneurs. You believe in the spirit of entrepreneurs. You believe in the creativity and the value of people going after their ideas. Bye bye, Papa. But you believe in the values of people, right? And so if you see things in your review of these case studies, and you see values that you resonate with, it's okay. Just build upon those values, build upon those statements. So for our next class, I want you to make sure that, like, with each one of these, there is a supporting statement around that value. Okay. So you want to go to the next level. And if we're using WeWork, inspired, we do what we love and are connected to something greater than ourselves. We all are inspired by that, right? So I want to make sure that for our next meeting, we're going to share these values. You're going to be sharing your values, and let's try to fine tune some of your statements. So go ahead and choose anywhere from 3 to 5 and decide on what's really important to you. Have you been able to locate just core values, a list of core values? You go through and you circle maybe your top 25, then you go through the 25 and then you circle maybe 15, go through the 15, think about it, then you circle 10, go through the 10 and you circle 5. That's how you can get from a list of 50 values and just keep going down until you determine which ones really speak to you. And then if there are companies that are similar to yours and people that are doing similar things to you, you can also look at that as well. Ben and Jerry's, everybody loves them. And since you're a nonprofit, Candace, you want to look up nonprofits that eradicate poverty. If you haven't done that yet, just choose that, choose that particular one. You can also choose nonprofits or global organizations that eradicate poverty. So you can look at some of those and use them as examples as well. All right, so I want to just hear from you as it relates to maybe some values that you have been able to identify, maybe 2 or 3 of your values that you're working on.
Well, I wrote down 5. I don't have the supporting statement, but the ones that I've come up with so far are service, hope, trust, respect, and integrity.
Okay, say it again.
Service, hope, trust, respect, and integrity.
Okay, nice. So I want you to think about 2, service, hope,
Trust.
trust,
Mhm.
What else?
Respect
Respect,
and integrity.
Okay. Okay. So you'll know whether like some of your values is like service, hope, trust, respect, and integrity. Are there any additional maybe action words, right,
Mhm.
that you might consider? Like in this space, like what we just identified, right? In this space for you in eradicating poverty, what is it really going to take? It might take courage, right,
Mhm.
to go against some of the existing systems. It might take persistence. It might take these are parts of the way
Okay.
we want to treat people, but a part of the value system, and it may take transparency.
Mhm.
Do you
True.
see what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
what happens with that when you start to align the values, and it's not just what makes us feel good, but it's being dependable, it's being accountable, it is being what do you call it? Well, courageous, courage, to do things, to ask. It is so that what happens is your actions start to, and if hope is a part of the statement, the mission statement, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the value because it's an outcome. It's not something we can act upon. It's how we want people to feel.
Got you. Okay.
Okay, so if we went back to Everlane, they were radical transparency, ethical factories. And you can even build something along that line as well. You're not limited. But we can see that we know how to be ethical. There's a way to make ethical a reality. right? It's an action, it's a behavior. So when you think about values, values lead to behaviors. They support how we are going to do the work. So hope as a value, I don't know how that supports our work, how we do the work, if that makes sense. It's
Mhm.
too intrinsic. It's going to be an outcome of our behavior. Does that
Gotcha.
make sense? All right.
Yes,
Uh,
perfect.
okay, so just give some thought to it. And listen,
Mhm.
this is your opportunity to win, ladies. I am in a mentoring program with an executive at Facebook, right? Who is hand holding me to show me different things that eventually I'm going to tell you too. I'm going to share with you and show you how to do some of these things. But I am hand holding you in this process. And so I would compel you to take this opportunity. And we don't have to run, we don't have to sprint. I want you to really know this and feel very confident that the choices that you are making and the what you're choosing about your company that you're building, it's important to you. It's just not words, and that it's words that we can actually begin to activate and act upon. All right. So do the assignment. I was nervous today because I thought my meeting with the guy I was like, oh my God, I didn't read the stuff I was supposed to read. And then he sent me a note. No, it's for tomorrow. I said, whoo, thank you, because I really want to honor your time. Right?
Right.
I want to have the right questions I can ask you to bring value to this relationship. So again, I encourage you to do the same. To do the work, just take a little time, even if it's the day before. Give yourself an hour just to think about it. It doesn't have to be perfect, but what's going to make the difference for you is that you actually put forth the effort. So on those case studies, you don't have to look at all 10, use one or two and really kind of dissect it like we just did with Swell. When we're looking at that, we just read that letter makes you excited about the possibilities of what you can present to your customer base. All right. And so Monica D, and then I'll come to you, Monica London. What are your value statements?
And I'm sure some of it probably will change again, but I said unity,
Okay.
boldness,
Mm-hmm.
fairness,
Mm-hmm.
and courage.
Okay.
So far. I'll be tweaking, but I'm sure that unity and fairness will be to that
Mm-hmm.
set.
Yep.
And I guess it's a question for another time, because I kind of started out one way with just that one little piece in my mind, but now that it's broadened,
Mm-hmm.
I need to think of it in another facet, because I'm like, okay, is it just an organization? Should it be something that's nonprofit? I'm just kind of,
Well, what's interesting about if you continue this journey of building out that purpose, mission statement, that statement, and now the values, what's really interesting and about for all of you, the work that you do, this becomes like the foundation for anything that you do. You're going to find that these value statements are going to align, even if you decided to do something over here, because your passion is exactly what you're building. Now, it might look differently in like a digital marketing company, right? But the core values are going to be the same. Delivery. That makes sense. Is that how you want to work, how you want to show up in the world, how you want people that join you to have an attitude uh, to support unity and boldness and fairness and courage. When I think about unity for the work that you're doing, Monica, around relationships, and this is where you have to be focused to push yourself not to fall into what that one part that you're familiar with, and
right.
that's those relationships, and that's really what you're saying. Versus when you look at these values, when you talk about unity, how do you accomplish unity in value? Our job, if we're building this company around helping people have better relationships in the world and to eradicate poverty with the power of love, however that flows out, then unity, what does that mean? We act, this is what it means. a part of our statement is that we always act as bridge builders to bring parties together for the highest outcome of unity. Do you see how the value statement, so that when I show up, if I'm an employee 3 years from now and I really align with this, how do we do it? We're gonna, within this organization, we're gonna train people in probably mediation. We're probably gonna train them in relationship building. We're probably gonna train them in soft skills around dealing with difficult people. We're probably gonna train them in how to meet strangers. How to, do you see what I'm saying? And so those are the things that equip people so that when we show up in the space, we are going to deliver on these values. Now, when you think about boldness, what does boldness mean? Why is it necessary? Right? Mm-hmm. What does it mean? So you're going to have to be able to interpret that into a value statement, meaning that we're not afraid to ask for hard things. We're not afraid to have courageous conversations, you know, different things like that. But you've got to be able to think that through in how it's done. And can we, because we have values, then we have beliefs, then we have actions. Again, values are the foundation of what we're going to believe about what we do that will then support how we act.
Yes.
That's the triangle.
Makes sense.
So that's how we build that foundation. So just think a little bit more on it. Go ahead.
One more time. I'm sorry. Values.
Okay. Yeah, so values are your foundation, and that's why it's necessary. Here's a great example that all of you will understand because we're talking biblical. When we think about values, when you have core values that remain consistent, here's a question, can you have a belief that doesn't support your value?
Say that again.
Okay, so if values are your foundation, can you have a belief that doesn't support your values?
In the real world, that wouldn't make sense, but in God's world, it could possibly make sense.
Okay, so then does belief come before value?
No, your values are based upon your beliefs.
Okay, wait a minute now. If you're saying your values are based
I mean, your beliefs are based upon your values. I've said it wrong. Sorry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you think about this, I want you to consider, those value statements. They help keep our beliefs intact, right? They help to support the belief system. And when the belief system is supported, guess what? Your ability to take action becomes incredible.
That's good.
Why? Because you have a belief system that can support it. Does that make sense?
In essence, it's as if your values, I just look at it as like my family. When I grew up and what I learned as our core values from my family, shaped what I believed. Yep. So when I went out or I went to school and maybe kids were doing different stuff, I'm like, well, I don't do that because I don't believe in that because these are the values that I have.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, see, okay, Coach.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Okay, so this is where my struggle is stemming from our prior conversation, because me being a believer.
Yeah.
Okay. And me knowing what the word says. But I have, society around me is saying that we should all be as one. Okay.
Well, okay, I'm listening.
Okay. We all should be as one, but that's not exactly.
Well, I don't think society says we should all be as one. Okay?
You don't think so?
I don't think so at all. I don't think so at all.
Okay. Well,
I'm not sure what part of society is saying we should all be one, right?
That, you know, that we are supposed to, okay, of course, be like with like-minded people, but we're supposed to work together to get through, you know, to deal with racism and all of that stuff. Okay.
Yes.
And but yet God says, be ye separated. So what am I supposed to do?
I think you're taking things too literal, number one. Okay.
Okay,
You can be in the world and not of the world.
true.
Okay. So to be separated, you're separated anyway. I mean, in general, when you think about it, you're separated from, you don't have to separate yourself. You're already separated. If a person doesn't believe in God or in the Bible, they're already separated. There's nothing you have to do as a believer to separate yourself. It already is there. You're living amongst people. We're living with people, right?
Yes.
Our togetherness and connection with God is by our choice. God created all people, period. He's the creator of all, right? The difference is how we come into that more intimate relationship with him, right? Everybody has an opportunity. If every knee is going to bow, every tongue is going to confess. Every single person has an opportunity. And I believe that we are in the space where we think we have something to do with it. I'm of the mindset, actually, I need to do the very best that I need to do in the world. And if each one of us did it, if we believe, if we believe in Jesus, we believe in God as Father, then, and we focus our attention on seeing what the Father is doing and do what he tells us to do, what kind of world could we live in? And you got to always ask yourself the question, no matter what information you're getting your hands on, what is the Father saying? If that is the core of your belief, if he really is your belief system, you know, if he's your value. And I said, I'm going to share this one piece with you around values and beliefs and actions and the simplicity of it, right? I'm not right. I'm just saying this is how I have perceived this, in other words,
Okay.
how I've lived my life, right? I always go back to what is the Father saying? Because see, that's the part of you that you get to align with your value. Jesus said, hey, I only came here to do what I see the Father doing. Not a single one of us can live his purpose. We can't do what he did. We can have him as an example, but we cannot be Jesus Christ. Okay, because that part has already been done. So here's an example of values, right? So when we think about values, and then I'm gonna hop off, but when we think about, can you all see the screen? Yes,
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
All right, so values, I just didn't have time to put my lines in there for you, but values, when we think about a value is something that is valuable, it has worth, right? It's something that we connect to that has worth in opportunity, or something how we live our lives. So what you value, people want to know, what are the things that are important to you? How do you live your life? Monica, to your point, how you learn to live your life is really through our parents and through our teachers, through our siblings, through our community, through our five senses. That's how we're learning things until we're at the point in our lives where we ourselves can begin to take paths of learning that aren't coming from the people we know, aren't coming from the community, beyond the indoctrination of what we learn in school. It's our own quest to learn things. And so when we do learn things, we create what we call values. It's the core of who we are. Now, the reason why I'm going to use this example, because I think you all will understand it. The value is, I'm going to use the example of Paul, from Saul to Paul, and how values are there. Beliefs can change. When you are attached and aligned with a value, you're going to stick with that value, because it's like in the core of who you are. And the challenge of communication and relationships is there is a misalignment of values that when they bubble up into belief systems, they're not supported. We don't believe the same thing. What are we doing? You know what I mean? You don't really believe what I believe, but we think we do. But when the conflict happens, it's in the space of what we call beliefs, right? Because the beliefs aren't really aligning, and then the actions come in. It's like, see, I know you didn't have no belief in that value. All right, so let's look at this belief of Paul. Y'all know I get excited here. Saul to Paul. Now, this takes it away from all the other stuff. Just using this one example. If you believe that Saul had a encounter with God, was he a different God than the God he served? That's your question. You got to answer. Is it yes or no, Monica? You're on mute.
Oh, sorry. I was saying, repeat that one more time.
Okay, so the question is, because I'm talking about what you value. We know that Saul was a learned person, right? He understood the Torah. He understood the Jewish culture. He understood the Jewish laws. He understood all these things. So he knew the father of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, right? That was his God. So was his God different from Jesus's God?
His God encompasses both.
Whose God?
Saul's God encompasses both the fullness, I guess I'm trying to say, the fullness of God. Okay.
Hold on to that. Just hold on to that point, because we're talking about values, right?
Yes.
So Saul's value was, I believe God. I believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I believe in the Torah. I believe in the Jewish laws. I believe in all of these things, right? I believe in it. And because he had the value of God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, his beliefs were shaped on God. The beliefs were what? The Torah. The belief was the culture. The belief was the law of the land. The belief was his learnings that he learned, right?
Yes.
That was his beliefs, which then led to what actions?
It led him from killing to leading.
Okay, let's just stick with Saul, though.
That is Saul.
Yes, but
Saul. Okay, I got it.
Yeah. So if we stick with Saul, because we know this is the same person,
yeah,
right, who was behaving in a way because of his belief, and he was taking actions, but he believed in God. His value was God.
Okay, so but he was killing God's people.
It didn't matter because of what? His value about God was still the same, that he was committed to God. He was committed to what he understood, his value of this relationship with God. His beliefs now were supported by that belief in God, but the beliefs were based on the information and the knowledge and the culture and the authorities and all of these different things that shaped his belief, right? That ultimately would turn into actions. And the actions turned into the persecution of Christians. Why? Because he believed his God, the God that he served, based on his beliefs, that he knew that there was a God, but his belief said his God wanted to persecute these other ones. His belief
so his belief was to eliminate Christians.
Yes, well, his belief was not so much that's not how he just like, I gotta go kill all the Christians. No, his belief was to what he believed. He believed that the Jewish law was important. He believed the words of the Jewish, like no different than the Sanhedrin talking to Jesus. You can't heal this man on a Sabbath. It's a belief. Supported by what? Their belief that God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, is who they are in service to, who they are accountable to. And so my original question was, that the same God?
At that,
The same God, the same Father. Now, just hold the thought. We don't have to solve it. I'm just saying is that values support beliefs. Beliefs then turn into actions. So actions are supported by beliefs. Beliefs are then supported by values. And I would say to you today that Saul, he loved God. He loved God. His value was God. His faithfulness was to God. His faithfulness was to learn the values or the principles of the day. His faith was to the culture. His faith was to take the actions that supported his values. That's what his faith was, right? Until he had this encounter. He had this encounter with Jesus Christ, with the Holy Spirit. And did his value change? No. But what God will do, if you believe in God, he'll change the way you believe about a thing.
His
He'll
beliefs.
change, because he has to shift the belief. Because if your value is God, if your value is relationship with the Father, in whatever you encounter in life, it is always going to be a crisis of belief, a crisis of faith. If you believe in God, if you're starting from there, when an atheist says, I don't believe in God, that's their value. So they're not going to act out like they believe God, because they don't. They don't have a value that supports it, right? Until they have a transformation in their own lives, their own mind, that value changes. I'm not saying it doesn't. And in Paul's situation, Paul's value in God didn't change. His beliefs changed. The encounter he had changed him. So if his beliefs change and this God that he knew now has a different perspective, but the value of God, the God relationship, the Father relationship is still there. It has a different set of beliefs. Now, what does he do? Instead of persecuting Christians, now he becomes one of the most impactful apostle in the Bible for transformation. In his beliefs were changed by God. They asked Paul, where do you get this from? Man, you didn't even walk with us with Jesus. The Holy Spirit taught me this. Why? Because I believe in God. I believe in the Father. So therefore, beliefs are the things that are shaped through knowledge, through experience, through, you know what I mean? They're not intrinsic. We're like taking in this information. We're learning stuff. And so if you start to have a crisis of faith or a crisis of belief, you've got to ask, what are you valuing?
That's good.
Because that is what's shaking your foundation. It usually isn't God. It usually is, what are you believing right now? What is challenging your belief? And this goes even one step farther. Then he begins to act out the things that what his God is telling him, because he believes differently. So now his actions are different. Now let me take the God factor out. That's in this example. When you're talking to people and you have relationship with people, everybody has a value system. These are the things that are important to them, right? And if you attack, this is why there's so much trouble in the world. If we are attacking people's core values, when we look at politics, politics attack the core value. If you're on the right or the left, it's going to attack your core values. And if it doesn't resonate with what you truly value, so let's say, for instance, you might resonate with pro-life, right, in your value system, but you don't resonate on the right side with capitalism and taking everything and not making provision for people who have less than. It's going to cause a conflict of what? Beliefs. You don't have anywhere to go. You didn't create this thing anyway. But your frustration is going to be felt because it's a complete attack on your belief. We hadn't even began to talk about, when we talk about people of color, right? And where we stand in this process around party platforms, right? Most African Americans or people of color aren't necessarily pro-choice, but you might be pro-life because of your what? Your values, because you believe that that baby was formed in the womb even before I knew you. That is the word, right? So we have that as a part of our core value, but we can't align with some of the other values of this party, or the values of the other party. So you have this conflict because I really don't believe that. I really don't, that's not my belief. So actions, we don't go vote, actions. We're not participating in political processes. Actions, we're not trying to figure out how to have our faith and our beliefs and our political affiliations align with our values. Do you see? And so whenever you attack the beliefs, and oftentimes relationships are lost or broken because the beliefs are not the same. And the beliefs are not the same because the values are truly different. And we believe somebody is feeling this way, but their actions are different. So you go back to, what do you really value about our relationship? What do you value about our relationship with our customers, with our clients, with our community, with our stakeholders? And if a person really doesn't care about it, people are gonna buy my stuff and just go on, you know what I mean? I'm gonna make these coins and get this bag. And there's a lot of people like that. And how sustainable will that be? Eventually, we're gonna run into challenges. Okay, folks, gotta get out of here. I love doing what I love, as you could see, right? So hopefully that was helpful to you today. And you can unmute and we can pop out of here on a little bit of love.
You'll be posting this. Did you record this? Oh yes. Okay.
Did I? Oh,
yeah. I'm like,
oh yes, I made sure I was looking for the part. Yeah.
Because there's something that you said about when you show up as a bridge builder, and I didn't get on that. So I want to go back so I can write
for the unity part.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. All right. So, all right, ladies. Let's see if I have 1, 2. We'll end up. I want to remind you, we'll end on this one. Lay on Mac. Let me see if I can. Remember to focus. That's what I'm hearing for you. Fierce commitment to future, right? Is just focus your attention on where the Lord wants you to be and how he wants you to show up in the world. And I'm just going to end our with this last slide on focus, and let me know if you can actually see it.
Yes. Yeah.
I know what I was trying to do. I've got 2 screens here. Okay, I want to make sure you can hear it is what I was going back to do. I'll make sure the sound is there. All right, and you can take a look at those. I'm not sure what happened there. Me and all my great technology. I was trying to be ready. Hold on. Okay. Hey, in your mindset. Remember that distraction is the absence of intention.
Yeah.
Know that you're loved, you're appreciated, you're loved. We got the God team, people. Believe you will be. Ooh. If you can see it, it's your mindset. You can achieve it. Adjust your mindset. If you can see it, it's your mindset. You can be it. Adjust your mindset. celebrated and valued. So go and continue to live an amazing life. I'll talk to you soon, everybody. All right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.